Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Friday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Now, this is another Joker-dominated episode of the DCEU Daily, and I'm really sorry if there's a lack of the Snyder Cut chat, there's a lack of DCEU movie kind of think pieces, and that will be back when this film and the fuss about this film dies down. As you know, I love this film. It's an amazing film, and this film was purposely made controversial. I am sure of it now. Now, I was talking to someone who talks to someone else who has a friend within Warner Brothers, and I'm going to give you a quote, an alleged quote, take this with a pinch of salt, where this is apparently Warner Brothers' attitude towards bloggers and critics and media. We are done listening to them. Let me repeat that. We are done listening to them. So what does that mean? That means they are not going to make films to please the media, access media, bloggers and critics. They are going to get creatives that can make very, very interesting artistic films, whether those films are artistic visually in terms of Zack Snyder or what Todd Phillips did, artistically in terms of narrative and personality and brutality. Warner Brothers are now going to do their own thing with their DC movies. And they do not care what these bloggers and journalists think. They're more committed to giving us, the fans, the consumer, something interesting. Not necessarily something that we keep on saying, give us that, give us that, give us that. Something that they know will enjoy and will really get into, and it will compel us and it will kind of motivate us to kind of talk about it. I think if you think about it, before the Joker movie was announced, I don't think anyone was going, let's have a Joker movie, let's have a Joker movie. Well, I'm sure a few Joker fans would have. But I think, and a lot of people said, this is a movie we didn't ask for. Well, Solo was a movie we didn't ask for. That's definitely a movie we didn't ask for. But although we didn't ask for the Joker film, look, the Joker has been gagging for his own movie for years. He has everything. And people always go, you can't tell his origin story, you can't tell an origin story. But he is not a reliable narrator, is he? As he's admitted himself in one of the graphic novels. Is it The Killing Joke? So it doesn't matter if he starts telling you his origin story. The guy's a bullshitter. You can't believe the Joker. If you're sitting in the pub with the Joker and he goes, all right, Mick. All right, Joker. Any kills today? Yeah, 1,000. Right, I just went on a TV show and blew someone's head off. You can't even believe him. He's like, what's that one with Ewan McGregor, the Tim Burton film? Something Fish, when the father has been telling the son, right, all these years, all these stories and all these amazing people and beings he's met, and all these adventures he's had, and the son just thinks the father's a bullshitter, right? And Albert Finney plays the father. Brilliant, by the way. Brilliant film. Is it Shooting? It's not Shooting Fish, it's something else. Anyway, it turns out at his father's funeral, all these extraordinary characters that he didn't think existed, he didn't think his father met, these adventures his father claimed he had, it was all true because all these people turned up at his funeral. And that's a bit like the Joker, isn't it? So, yeah, it is a very kind of fascinating, really. It was a film we didn't really ask for. So I'm going to read you two or three negative. I'm going to read you, I think, 2 or 3 negative pieces about the Joker because I'm just fascinated at the forced and contrived way they've been sitting there for 5 days while all these brilliant box office kind of numbers have been coming through, and they're getting wound up and wound up. So they're contriving these articles because they don't know what to do next. They are so triggered by this film because it's about a white man, and we're not allowed to feel sorry for white men. It's not allowed. White men are bad. We're all bad. We're all toxic, and we don't even deserve a platform. We don't deserve to talk. We don't deserve to breathe. This is what these extreme leftists think, and it's absolutely insane. So they are really doing overtime now, really trying to disenfranchise the movie. Of course, it's too late. And I told you months ago this film was bulletproof. So let's read this first one. Joker using Gary Glitter song was a mistake. Was it? I think they should never have used that. Of course not. I mean, I don't want this piece of shit making money out of this. I mean, he's a terrible, terrible human being. But did Warner Brothers do it on purpose? We'll never know, because this is really interesting, and it backs up what my kind of source said, that Warner Brothers are saying we are not listening to them anymore. They haven't even came out and said sorry for doing this, sorry for offending people. When they talked about kind of the victims of that tragedy, that shooting tragedy in the cinema, right? They made a statement. They haven't made a statement about this. That, my friends, is very interesting. It says that they did this on purpose. They wanted it to be controversial. They wanted people to talk about it, whether it's for or against the movie, because at the end of the day, it's people talking. And as I said yesterday, it doesn't matter how you get people talking about a film like Captain Marvel, people get intrigued and people go to see it. As controversies continue to build up around the Joker, contrived controversies you build up, by the way, but never mind, the inclusion of the Gary Glitter song Rock and Roll Part 2 on its soundtrack has raised many eyebrows, despite Joker receiving glowing reviews among some truly poor ones. Joker has, but when you read the poor ones, they're having a go at the film for making them feel uncomfortable. It's pathetic. Who's that Collider? Who's that Collider critic? That woman, she's saying, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And when I woke up the next day, I was still uncomfortable. And it's like, are you on drugs? But then, and this is Film Gob. What Film Gob's brilliant because he sits these people down. So he did this kind of montage of her talking about Captain Marvel and saying this was an amazing film. It was a great film for women's lib. And then she talks about the Joker movie. Why was this made for? Who was this made for? It was obviously, right, it made her look so dumb because these people are so dumb. Joker has had its fair share of controversies. It's inevitable that a movie like this one, that was designed to push buttons, would get people talking and taking various sides of the debate. However, there is one issue with the movie that's united everyone against it. I'm not against the film because of this song. They shouldn't have put this song in it. They shouldn't be paying this man royalties, absolutely. But I'm not against the whole film. That would be outrageous. In the pivotal scene where Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, embraces his role as the Joker and dons the outfit, he does a celebratory dance on the steps to Rock and Roll Part 2. It's not the scene, but the song itself that draws whatever that says. Gary Glitter is a former glam rock singer who achieved major success in the 1970s and 80s. Just in case you guys don't know, for a period, he and his music were beloved features of sporting events and the British rock scene. But in 1997, he was arrested after pornographic images of children were discovered on his computer and in his home. Then in 1999, he was sentenced to 4 months in prison and placed on the UK Sex Offenders Register. Following his release, he moved to Cuba, then Cambodia, where he was detained for his previous offences before being deported to Thailand. He later moved to Vietnam and was once again arrested for sex offences featuring underage girls. In 2006, he was tried on charges of committing obscene acts with 2 girls, aged 10 and 11. Disgusting, isn't it? Then after being found guilty, sentenced to 3 years in prison, he was released in August 2008 and deported to the UK. In 2015, he appeared in court in London accused of attempted rape, indecent assault and other sexual offences against 3 girls between 1975 and 1980. Since 2015, he has been in jail serving a 16-year sentence. So I just thought I'd read that to you for why people are upset about this song being played. And look, Warner Brothers, they've obviously done this on purpose, but they shouldn't have done this. This is one element I think we're going to all agree on, but not to hate the whole movie over it. I think they certainly shouldn't have put this song on it. That's for sure. Especially in the UK, Gary Glitter's downfall is one of the most shocking and well-known celebrity stories of the past several decades. For a whole generation, he's been better known for being a sex offender and paedophile than he is a singer. The choice of Joker to take one of its most notable and entertaining scenes, the one that's on the poster and highlighted on social media, and score it to a Gary Glitter song cannot help but feel extremely misguided on several levels. It's a strange moment in the film for many reasons. On a purely stylistic level, it's incongruous, whatever that means, with the rest of the Joker's musical choices. That may well be the point of the scene, although given how effectively Joker uses songs by artists like Frank Sinatra, as well as that stunning score by Icelandic composer Hilda, I'm not going to say her last name, I'll butcher it, it still feels like like a missed creative opportunity. There is also a very real topic of royalties. Glitter still gets money for the use of his songs. They don't actually know that, by the way. And his many convictions don't change that. They also don't know that, by the way. Various reports have stated that Glitter may have earned as much as $1 million from royalties. They don't know that, by the way. Alone from Oasis' song Hello, which samples of his biggest hits, Hello. Hello, I'm back again. Use of the song Rock and Roll Part 2 in the NHL has earned Glitter around $250 million, I think, according to a 2014 report by Billboard. You can still buy his songs online. Joker made a lot of money already, and it stands to reason that Glitter will certainly pocket a decent amount of cash from the movies using of that song. The 2-minute use of that Rock and Roll Part 2 could net him hundreds of thousands of pounds, although the actual amount is unclear and he wouldn't get every penny from the licensing rights. No, he wouldn't. You've actually just contradicted yourself. You just don't know how much he's getting, if he's getting anything. That part of it is ridiculous. There's no way the people involved with making the Joker didn't know that this song choice would be controversial and ethically problematic, given that using the song would require them to allow a convicted sex offender against children to profit from the decision. They don't know that, by the way. It's another Joker controversy the film just doesn't need. And the film that doesn't need all these so-called contrived controversies that are not controversies. This film's still making money. The more you talk about it, the more you contrive, the more money and intrigue it creates. But you people don't get that. But do you actually believe what you write? I very much doubt it. Anyway, the film just doesn't need, and one that should have been flagged up many months ago as something that will be universally decried, even for people who love Joker. And that scene, which is a real peak for the movie, can't help but have a bad taste in their mouths over this ill-chosen choice of song. Basically, right, they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose. I don't know why they did it on purpose. Maybe they're trying to make a link with the Joker and the singer. I don't know. Look, the guy's a piece of shit. We know that. There's no defending this. I can't defend this. I can't defend a studio putting a song of a convicted paedophile on their film. I don't know why they did it. But ultimately, that doesn't spoil the film. Actually, it doesn't even spoil the moment. It's a compelling moment. It's an amazing moment. I think what Warner Brothers should do, not necessarily come out and condemn the filmmaker's decision, but say, do you know what? We're going to give some money for a charity that helps children who have suffered child abuse or something like that. Do something real. Do something, So without actually having to apologise, just say, look, we wanted to choose this song for various reasons. It had meaning and we needed it for that moment. Now, obviously, that's bullshit, but if they come out that and then give some money to some charity, but at the end of the day, and I hate to be crass here, it isn't hurting the movie. The truth is, the sad thing about this is, nobody cares that they used that song. Yes, this is hilarious. Joker, AMC Theatres bans prankster over no singles policy flyer. Obviously an MCU fan. God, they're desperate. Look at how the depths they went to make Avengers Endgame the most successful film of all time. They were literally buying 200 tickets at a time. They cheated in making that film successful. It's hilarious. And they will do anything. They are so scared of DC movies. They will do anything to try and make these films fail. It has not worked. It has not worked. So they printed these posters and now someone's been banned. A prankster has been banned from AMC Theatres for posting a fake flyer claiming that Joker screenings have a no singles allowed policy. It's a joke that's almost believable considering the heightened concerns around the release of the movie. Why would you believe that? What would banning single blokes, do? Does that mean that blokes in relationships couldn't sit there and then shoot a place up? Couldn't a woman stand up and shoot a place up? But this is the crazy, irrational, extreme left mentality. Anyway, and where are the heightened concerns coming from? Not the consumer. Landmark Theatres banned makeup and costumes from Joker screenings. Ridiculous. And in some major cities, there was an increased police presence in anticipation of the movie possibly inspiring a mass shooter, which was never going to happen. Joker stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, a lonely and miserable man who becomes a clown-faced killer. It's a bit more deeper than that, isn't it? But never mind. A miserable man. A miserable man. Not a mentally ill man. A miserable man. A bit like me, I'm a miserable man, aren't I? Anyway, who becomes a clown-faced killer after being pushed too far by society. In 2012, there was a mass shooting, remind us again, at a screening of The Dark Knight in Aurora, Colorado. Between that tragedy and Joker's storyline, some have feared that another shooting could occur. You wish! Fortunately, or unfortunately from your narrative, so far the most disruptive things to happen at Joker screenings have been a man cheering at the violent murders, at spitting at other patrons, and two men who were kicked out for smoking in the theatre and blowing smoke in other attendants' faces. I tell you what, MCU fans are getting very, very desperate. And MCU fans spitting at people, that's disgusting. Some have been turning all this hyped up concern into joke material at an ArcLight theatre in Los Angeles. Yes, because it's stupid. A flyer was posted claiming that Joker screenings were enforcing a strict no guys who look like they've never had sex policy. Yeah, the extreme left. Oh, crazy, aren't they? I have had a lot of sex, right? I had some sex this morning. Someone who wasn't my partner, I will confess. I'm sure that upset a lot of people. But basically, right, let's just say I've never had sex in my life. How would that make me want to shoot up a cinema? I'm just thinking of kind of the logic there. There's no logic, is there? Anyway. Twitter user Jim Payne also decided to have some fun at the expense of the Joker panic and posted a picture of a flyer he created and planted at an AMC theatre in Orange, California that claimed there was a no singles policy for Joker screenings. Later shared an email he'd received from AMC saying that he'd been observed putting the sign up before the screening in order to take a photo and putting it up again later in the evening. The letter concludes by forbidding him from returning to AMC theatres, adding that if does return, he will be considered a trespasser and may be arrested by law enforcement. Though AMC's response might seem like an overreaction, the theatre chain is understandably annoyed after taking heat from those who believed the flyer was real. The AMC Guest Services Twitter account was forced to reply to dozens of users with the clarification this sign was not posted by us and this is not our policy. The sign was removed as soon as it was found by the theatre. Since the flyer had the official logos for both Joker and AMC theatres, it was actually fairly convincing, aside from the idea that the theatre chain would actually ban people from seeing a movie alone. The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that AMC's letter to Jim Payne, whose real last name is Payne, is real, unlike the flyer, explaining why he posted the flyer, Payne said. It was kind of just something for my friends to laugh about. The theatre no singles policy has been a long-running joke online and has evolved to other more absurd claims such as a singles tax theatre metal detectors, theatre penis inspection, etc. So joke about that with them. And I do go to the movies alone, so I've always found the joke funny. So while Joker may not have inspired any real-life killers, the movie has certainly inspired some real-life jokers. Oh my God, hilarious, hilarious. Now, I feel sorry for him a bit here because it looks like he was just trying to be funny and it's backfired. Look, mate, there's many other cinemas. I think there's other cinemas in America other than AMC, so you'll probably be able to see your films. But this is the thing, isn't it? He's joking. Why is he joking? Because of SJWs. They're constantly targeting us. If you're a man, or if you're single, or maybe you haven't had sex, or maybe you're a little bit shy, or maybe you're a little bit overweight, or maybe you still live with your parents, that's something they attack people for. You know, the extreme left are very nice people, aren't they? Charming. So this guy is having a joke, not at the Joker's expense, but at their expense. And I do think it's kind of funny. So many negative Joker articles, and it's hilarious. Here's one. Why Jokers shouldn't have relied on mental illness, guest column. Now, this is going to be hilarious. I actually haven't read this. This is like a trailer reaction when we both watch it together. So anyway, Hollywood oftentimes mental health struggles with violence, but such instances are vanishingly rare. Write forensic psychiatrist Vassils K. Pozzi, Felitsa Golsa, and Preven Kaban. Amidst the swirling cultural and political maelstrom spurred by a slew of mass shooting speculation about their causes and a renewed national debate about how to prevent them, Todd Phillips' critically acclaimed Joker stormed cinemas last week, opening to a record-breaking October box office. The film featured a self-described mentally ill loner who goes on a killing spree has generated controversy. No, not by the consumer, not by the people watching the films. They're enjoying it. It's you stirring the shit, and you're stirring it for yourselves. You even got yourselves banned at the main premiere over in the States, which is hilarious. Storm Cinemas last week opened into a record-breaking October box office. The film, featuring a self-described mentally ill owner who goes on a killing spree, has generated controversy since capturing the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival last month. And hasn't that really triggered them? The Golden Lion is the biggest thing you can win, apart from the Oscars, and they're so mad about it. Film Festival last month, with some critics voicing concerns the film may inspire copycat violence. On World Mental Health Day, October the 10th, what can we learn from Joker's portrayal of mental illness and its relationship to violence? Joker protagonist Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix, is a complex character depicted as having a serious mental illness. In addition to experiencing symptoms of depression, Fleck exhibits signs of psychosis characterized by erotomantic delusions, ideas of reference, disorganized thoughts, and possible hallucinations. We also learn of Arthur's history of childhood abuse, including head trauma that may have caused neurological injury, underlining his pathological laughter. Our sympathy for Fleck builds as he suffers a series of setbacks, including losing coverage for his counselling and psychiatric medication. It's the sympathy for a white man. That's what they don't like. However, the sympathy engendered through Arthur's struggles with mental illness becomes conflated with some more problematic. Problematic is a word they use a lot. Understanding of the violence he exacts against those who have wronged him. Fleck turns to violence. It's meant to elicit disdain for the character as his underlying psychopathic traits become more prominent. However, Joker achieves rock star status because of his violence. His new persona flashes Mick Jagger, David Bowie's swaggered scored by a rolling stadium anthem soundtrack as he dances his way down the same Sisyphean staircase he had previously trudged as a broken, powerless man. Paradoxically, is that what it says? Paradoxically, Phoenix's Joker seems more organised in thought and appearance, the more distant from treatment and the more violent he becomes. The Joker is far from the first film to associate mental illness with violence, or, for that matter, to be accused of having the potential to inspire violence. After John Hinckley Jr.'s 1981 attempt assassination of President Ronald Reagan, America learned of Hinckley's bizarre motive. He hoped to win the attention and affection of actress Jodie Foster, who starred in the 1976 Martin Scorsese film Taxi Driver. Through repeated viewings of the movie, Hinckley cultivated his fixation on Foster and developed an identification with the film's main character, Travis Bickle, played incidentally by Joker's Robert De Niro, who plots to assassinate a presidential candidate. Like De Niro's depiction of Travis Bickle, Phoenix in Joker's delivers a disturbingly accurate portrayal of a man who exhibits many of the same psychological factors and warning behaviours that manifest time again in mass shooters. Arthur Fleck's character arc echoes an unfortunately familiar scenario: a lonely, traumatised individual with emotional problems, insecurity, anger, shame, hopelessness, and a limited intrinsic or external resources experience a series of losses, disappointments, and insults. All of this leads to his cultivation of a grievance, culmination in exacting retribution towards those he holds responsible for his plight. A process known in the practice and science of targeted violence prevention as the pathway to violence. Now, before I go on, this is very interesting because even though he's mentally ill, he knows enough to know that the little dwarf character who's locked in the room with him, right, was good to him. So he doesn't kill him. So although he's mentally ill, being mentally ill doesn't mean you don't have conscious thought. It doesn't mean you don't have intellect. And the Joker has got both these credentials, and he has them in the comic books as well. What sets Joker apart from films like Taxi Driver, however, is its iconic protagonist, whose incredible mark on popular culture is undeniable. The Joker is one of the most celebrated villains of all time, and he's been doing this shit in comics, movies, and animated movies for years. culture is undeniable. The Joker is one of the most celebrated villains of all time, spanning the gamut of comics, television, film, and video games, in fact. The Joker's widespread notoriety and the movie's blockbuster success, paired with Phoenix's largely sympathetic and self-righteous portrayal of the downtrodden loner turned symbol for the masses, may increase the likelihood that the susceptible individuals will identify with the film's depiction of the character. So we shouldn't make films like this, right? We shouldn't make films like this. That's the point. If this doesn't set them off, something else will. Maybe that doesn't make it right, but this is what media is all about. This is what media's always done. While concerns that the pick could inspire at-risk individuals to commit acts of copycat violence may have some validity, what is unquestionable is how Joker reinforces negative and inaccurate stereotypes about mental illness and the nexus between mental illness and violence. It does, but it's not saying all mentally ill people will go on a killing spree. It's saying if we don't help mentally ill people, in the end, our consequences could be tenfold. In one of the most harrowing scenes in the film, Joker launches into a diatribe while making a guest appearance on a live late-night talk show, growing intensely agitated. He tells the host, Murray Franklin De Niro, his grim joke, "What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner? With a society that abandons him and treats him like trash. I tell you what, you get what you fucking deserve." It's a compelling, uncomfortable scene. There's no question about that. The punchline, a decidedly unfunny execution of the host on live TV. Although people with untreated mental illness have some increased risk of violence against others, relative to the general population, this typically occurs in very specific situations, such as when an individual experiences persecutory delusions and acts in perceived self-defense. This risk is still low compared to that attributable to other more common violence risk factors, like substance use and being a member of the male sex. Oh my God! They actually said this. Substance use and being a member of the male sex. It's ridiculous, but this is an extreme left kind of site. The Hollywood Reporter is very extreme left. Make no mistake about that. Indeed, despite the impression Joker may give, violence related to mental illness is vanishingly rare. It is rare, but it happens. So, just because it's rare, it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. In fact, a person is about 15 times more likely to be struck by lightning in a given year than to be killed by a stranger with chronic psychosis and mass shootings. Have you been to New York lately? By people with serious mental illness represent less than 1% of gun-related homicides. You don't know that. Mental illness, however, is incredibly common. Half of Americans will experience a diagnosable mental health condition sometime in their life, with 1 in 5 experiencing a mental health condition in the past year. They're the ones that come forward, and they're the only ones you know about. Despite these facts, beliefs that people with mental illness are inherently violent persist. No, but that's not what the film is saying. This is an example of one individual. Despite these facts, believe mental illness and are inherently violent persist. This is because we tend to reject the truth and accept these negative stereotypes. The Joker movie isn't creating a stereotype. It's giving you an example of what could happen, which are notoriously difficult to dispel. They are constantly reinforced by inaccurate and stigmatized media representations of people with mental illnesses and can in turn be weaponized for political expediency. While discussing the need for new legislation to help prevent mass shootings in the wake of El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio, President Donald Trump said that, here you go, they're linking the film with Trump, coming up with solutions. It's not up to mentally ill monsters, it's up to us. Joker could have told a story just as powerful and realistic without relying on tired tropes, playing on divisive stereotypes, although it's tempting for some to scapegoat mental illness. That's not what they're doing. As a way to try to make sense of seemingly senseless violence, instead, it's up to us to resist this impulse. Otherwise, the joke's on us, and it isn't funny anymore. This isn't a joke. This is a film that made a lot of commentary about mental illness, and it's not just about a man who turns violent and kills people. There was many opportunities in this film with this character to help him. There were so many people along the way who could have helped him. That's the message. It's not just about the violence. It could be anything. They could have made the Joker a suicidal person, and at one point he goes on the show to kill himself. Then he changes his mind. The moral of this story is treat people better. The message to society is the haves have got a lot and the have-nots have got nothing. There's a lot of wonderful commentary in here. And it's typical of sites like The Hollywood Reporter and the rest of Access Media to try and twist it. This was not about a stereotype. This is about one character, and it's about saying to us, this could happen. We need to change our mentalities. But of course, they never will. This is a really long video today, and I'm really sorry because it's going to take hours to upload, but it will get to you eventually. But I think we need to talk about this. Now, I can't find the article I was looking for, but there is an article that says that the version of Gotham City in Joker movie is actually without any personality or soul. I would beg to differ. I like all the versions of Gotham City I've seen on the big screen and the small screen. They all have their own little piece of character, but this is supposed to echo New York City in the early 80s. So it's not a new design. It's not Burton's really bleak Gothic design. It's meant to represent a real city in the real world. But obviously, this is in Batman's world. This is in Joker's world. So it's Gotham City. So it's trying to invoke something real. So at the end of the day, accusing them of not giving the film a Gotham City with a soul is absolutely ridiculous. There's nothing more soulful and with personality than a real-life city in the real world. So I found this one, right? Now, this is the last negative article I'm going to read to you. And then we're going to talk about Screen Rant's article where they think they can prove that everything was in Arthur Fleck's mind all along. But first, Jared Leto was alienated and upset at not getting to star in Joker. Now, let's be honest here. Jared Leto is as good an actor as Joaquin Phoenix. He's done a lot of amazing films. He's a very talented guy. He could have done it. I don't think he could have given us what Joaquin Phoenix did, but he was capable of doing something unique. But let's read this. When audiences got to see Jared Leto's take on the Joker, sorry about the phone, in Suicide Squad, they were less than enthused. Leto had reportedly gone method for the role, pulling gross pranks on his co-stars like sending everyone dirty condoms and anal beads, and he avoided speaking to anyone out of the character. There's about 1,000 actors who do this on movie sets. They're acting like this is a crime or something. It's like sending a character. This resulted in a boring performance that was in no way terrifying or memorable. His version of the Joker is the New 52. That Joker is more of a gangster, more than a Joker that you're afraid of. But people would be afraid of him because he's going to kill you if you don't give him what he wants. I actually got what they were doing with him, and I liked it. And it's a shame that David Ayer didn't do more with him. It's a shame that Warner Bros. Forced him to cut so much out of his Joker's performance. And as David said himself, the Joker should have been the villain of the Suicide Squad movie. And I think it's that what let Jared Leto down, not his performance, which I think was quite wonderful. But certainly made life harder for everyone involved in making the movie. No, he did. This is outrageous. Why did Jared Leto, by playing a few pranks and staying in character, make life harder for everyone, you assholes? So it shouldn't have come to a surprise to Leto when Warner Bros. Decided to make a Joker spin-off movie that featured another actor. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Leto was alienated and upset by the move, to which I can only respond, boo-hoo. If Jared Leto had given a good performance, which he did, as Joker, people would want to see more of him. We did, as Joker. And while you can blame the editing on Suicide Squad, yeah, we can, and claim that there's a more interesting performance of that character on the cutting room floor, we can. The fact remains that everything about his turn as the Batman villain reeked of someone trying too hard and missing the mark. It's wrong. You are absolutely talking nonsense. And it's not like Joaquin Phoenix is the easiest person in the world to work with, but Leto tormented his co-stars. He did not torment them. He was playing a few jokes on them. Jesus Christ, you assholes. co-stars for the benefit of his own performance. He didn't really care if it affected their work. It didn't affect their work. It was a selfish move. Shut up. Well, even if you buy, oh God, if you buy method acting, this is like the trial of Jared Leto, isn't it? Personally, I think it's just kind of obnoxious. Leto's actions show someone who put his own performance ahead of what would help his fellow actors. You're talking nonsense. You are lying. Granted, perhaps it was just a setting and the tone of the Todd Phillips tape that ruled out Leto rather than the actor's performance or behaviour. But I imagine neither helped his cause. It was nothing to do with the reason. They didn't want to use him. They wanted to use someone. They wanted to use Joaquin Phoenix. It was nothing personal against Jared, who is a critically acclaimed, wonderful actor. While Leto may feel alienated and upset at being replaced with Joker for a one-off movie, and he's also nowhere to be seen in Birds of Prey, maybe he should take a look at his own actions. Is there any more to this? No, look, I'm just disgusted. I read these articles to you, and I'm going off the headlines. I haven't read them. I like us to react to them together. It's fun, isn't it? Let me tell you something. Jared Leto, during this shoot, during the marketing, was the one coming out. I'm so proud of this group of actors. I'm so proud of this director. We have done something special, and I can't wait for everyone to see it. And the reason we didn't see the special thing he was talking about, because unbeknown to him, it was all on the freaking cutting room floor, thanks to Kevin Sujihara's cowardly behaviour, right? So then you get a piece like this. I was not expecting this. Absolutely outrageous. And you do wonder sometimes if studios aren't behind articles like that. That's very disappointing. Very. And before I get back to the Joker movie, there is something released, a Snyder Cut. This is Sean O'Connell, who I think he's involved with Cinema Blend, and he's recently got involved with Release the Snyder Cut. Here we've got a picture of him in the T-shirt. Can you see him right? Yeah. With Nerd Queens, I think, yeah. So he's very proud to wear his T-shirt. And the Release the Snyder Cut fans are passionate. They are determined. They have patience, compassion, and commitment. They stand with Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder. And I, for one, am glad I found this movement. Retweet the Snyder Cut. RT Snyder Cut. Hashtag Justice League. Well done, Sean O'Connell. That's great to hear, isn't it? There's so many more people getting involved with this movement. And all I can say is it's making a difference. So here's more of a positive Joker article. Evidence. All of Joker is in Arthur Fleck's head. I don't agree with that, by the way, but let's have a look what they say. There is reason to believe that all of the action of Joker takes place within the confines of Arthur Fleck's head. The Joker movie makes it clear that not all of the events we see are real, but they seem to pinpoint what those events are. That's the only thing. It's clear that not all of the events we see are real, and that much of the actions is imagined or hallucinated. It is never made apparent, however, just what events might be real, giving rise to the possibility that nothing we've seen actually happened and that the whole film is a madman's dream. I don't agree. I'm sorry, I don't. The ambiguity of Joker has been a divisive point of critics and audiences. The ambiguity. Let me tell you something. Of modern day consumers, younger people and people who write and talk about films. They don't like ambiguity. They want you to give them a spoon of sugar and put it in their mouth. There you are. I'm going to explain everything to you. I'm going to tell you everything that happened, my concepts, my narrative. Now you don't have to think for yourself. And that's the problem. I liked Lost because of its ambiguity. I love the Life on Mars series finale because of its ambiguity. And one of the great things about the Joker movie is its ambiguity. If you've got a brain, you appreciate ambiguity, but not some modern day audiences and bloggers. The ambiguity of Joker has been a divisive point for critics and audiences alike. Much of the controversy over Joker sprung from fears that he portrayed all psychologically divergent or socially awkward individuals as potential mass murderers. We're seeing they're only portraying one guy who's got problems, mental problems here. They're not saying everyone. This is what I said in the articles before. They take a situation, they lie about it, and they literally lie about the filmmakers' agendas, and this becomes rabid. And that's what they want. By blaming society for their deficiencies, we must never blame society. Society haven't done anything wrong. No, society set the rules and their rules are perfect. No one should blame society or governments or companies or media for anything. You're absolutely right, Screen Rant. Anyway, by blaming society for their deficiencies, what about society's deficiencies, eh? They don't have any deficiencies, do they? Anyway. It has also been suggested Joker intentionally promoted class warfare by painting all social activists as violent anarchists and all rich people as self-obsessed scoundrels. Oh, hang on a minute. Isn't that like The Last Jedi? I don't remember you criticising The Last Jedi for doing that. Or did you? No, you didn't. Anyway. The irony is that there's just as much evidence that the film's contradictory messages were intentional and that there is no deeper message nor a method to the madness. The one thing all viewers can agree on, however, is that Joker does a fantastic job of replicating the confusion of its protagonist and putting the audience inside his head. It does this not through the usual cinematic trickery that inspires empathy for the main character, but by using the movie itself as a simulation of Joker's mental state, by leaving it uncertain just what events in the movie are real, and the audience is left as confused and bewildered and frightened and angry as Arthur Fleck himself. The story of the Joker is based around the idea of the unreliable narrator, first popularised in the film by movies such as Citizen Kane, The Roche Harmon, and the unreliable narrator calls the entire validity of a story into question by failing to provide a truthful viewpoint. This unreliability can be either intentional or unintentional, depending upon the narrator's personal biases or their lack of accurate information. While the concept of the unreliable narrator has existed in fiction for hundreds of years, the term was first coined in 1961 by literary critic Wayne C. Booth. In his book, The Rhetoric of Fiction, William Riggin would later codify the many kinds of unreliable narrators in his 1981 book, Picaros, Madmen, Knights and Clowns. The unreliable first-person narrator, perhaps not coincidentally, Joker is set in the year 1981. The reason why Riggins' book is notable is that two of the types of unreliable narrators he isolated are particularly relevant in regards to Joker, the madman and the clown. The madman's story cannot be believed because his senses are unreliable. The clown's story cannot be believed because he does not take the story seriously and intentionally colours the tale to play with the audience's expectations. Both of these types of unreliable narration are reflected in Arthur Fleck's story. And for me, this is what makes this film so loyal to who the Joker is in the comics. Todd Phillips purposely wrote him like an unreliable narrator, just like he is in the comics. And isn't that brilliant? After all this talk of, social injustice and mental health and whether they should have done it or not, Todd Phillips has constructed a Joker that is loyal to the comics. It is made clear early on in Joker that Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix, has an active imagination. This is first made apparent in a scene where Arthur and his mother watch TV together. They enjoy a talk show hosted by Murray Franklin, Robert De Niro, who is also Arthur's comedic idol. Suddenly, Arthur is in the live audience of a recording of Franklin's program. And at first, it seems that the movie just cut ahead to a scene of Arthur attending a taping of Franklin's show. It is slowly revealed that Arthur is imagining the whole scene as Murray Franklin singles Arthur out of the crowd and starts talking to him. The two bond over their both being raised by single mothers, and the crowd applauds Arthur as he talks about how he loves his mother and tries to take care of her like a good son should. This declaration inspires Franklin to invite him on stage, give him a hug, and say he could be no prouder of Arthur if he was his own son. Beyond showcasing Arthur's longing for a father figure's approval and his desire for attention and respect, the scene also establishes that regardless of whatever mental issues he has, Arthur also has a rich fantasy life. Let's be honest about it. And we should be honest about this. You don't have to suffer from mental health to fantasize things. The amount of things I've fantasized about in my life, not just women I've had sex with, by the way, but I'm talking about meeting my idols like J.J. Abrams and talking to him about Superman and Lost and Alias. So we all fantasize. Well, maybe. Well, obviously I do have some issues. I've spoken about them in other videos, but I'm just saying you don't have to have mental health issues to have a fantasy world. That fantasy world is what helps us. It's what helps me avert my mental health problems coming back to a place where I have to have mental health care again. It is not until later in Joker that it becomes obvious just how disturbed Arthur has become and how his fantasy life has replaced his perception of reality. This is revealed through the character of Sophie Dumont, Zazie Beetz, a single mother who lives in the same building as Arthur, and his mother. Early in the movie, Sophie smiles at one of Arthur's jokes. While the two in the elevator together, this leads Arthur to follow Sophie through the streets of Gotham the next day, an act she notices but is strangely undisturbed by. Soon Sophie is coming to see Arthur perform at the comedy club, and the two seem to be dating. She's also at Arthur's side in the waiting room after Arthur's mother is hospitalised. The truth of things is not revealed until later in Joker, when Arthur is watching TV in Sophie's apartment late at night, and a tearful Sophie emerges from the bedroom to tell him that he's in the wrong apartment. We then see every scene in the movie that Sophie was in after her encounter with Arthur in the elevator, and it is made clear that Arthur just imagined that he had a girlfriend to support him in his creative endeavours and time of need. And the more subtle indication that Arthur is completely out of touch with reality is revealed through the bookend scenes that open and close the movie. Where Arthur is talking to a therapist, the first scene is in a dingy social services office where reference is made to how Arthur was committed to a psychiatric hospital once before. A quick slip shows him in said hospital. The second scene shows Arthur in the hospital again after the riot that was inspired by his murdering Murray Franklin. Both scenes show a clock in the background, and the time is 11:12, suggesting that everything that happens between those two scenes is part of one of Arthur's fantasies. Beyond the obvious scenes showing that Arthur Fleck's point of view is untrustworthy, there are many inconsistencies in the movie that also suggest that certain events never happen. One of these is the climactic chase where Arthur runs from the police detectives who come to question him as he's on his way to appear on the Murray Franklin show. While Joker has been praised for its stark realism, this sequence plays out like a Looney Tunes cartoon come to life, with Arthur getting hit by a car, cracking the glass on the windshield and somehow still managing to outrun his pursuers as if he were a cartoon character. Arthur also attempts to evade the police by putting a clown mask on over his clown makeup, like Bugs Bunny, wearing a multiple disguises on top of each other, and he literally dances away from the scene of the crime, like so many cartoon tricksters did after pulling a fast one on the villain. The fact that Arthur is invited to be on the Murray Franklin show in the first place is another indicator that this series of events is a construct of Arthur's crazed imagination. While Arthur's appearance seems to be something of a tribute to controversial comedian Andy Kaufman, who became famous for his weird stand-up routines and antics on Late Night with David Letterman, it still seems highly unlikely that a novice comedian like Arthur would be granted a spot on a national talk show based on a performance that was roundly mocked and failed to get any laughs. Unlikely, but not impossible as far as I'm concerned. The fact that this sequence ultimately ends with Arthur now fully Joker being cheered by masses of admirers as the city he hates burns, and the father who abandoned him, Thomas Wayne, dies, only seems to cement the idea that all of this, indeed, the entire Joker film, is just one elaborated hallucination. No. Great article. I respect your theory, but no. The whole film isn't a fantasy. The death of the Waynes isn't a fantasy. Why would that be? We know the death of the Waynes happens, right? We know that. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that Arthur would wish that on Bruce Wayne. It wouldn't be part of his fantasy. Because as we know from early on in the film, he allows the dwarf to go, the short guy to go, right? Because he was good to him. Bruce Wayne never did anything to hurt Arthur. Arthur wouldn't wish him harm. He wouldn't wish. Maybe he would wish for the Waynes to die, but I don't think he would fantasize about it because he knows that would hurt a young child, and it would hurt him like he was hurt through his life, not having a proper father figure. So I don't believe that one little bit. I think that's a bunch of nonsense. Now, it's an extremely, approaching 50 minutes. It's been an extremely long video. I don't know. This could take a whole day to upload, but never mind. It's all good. So basically, right, I want to talk about Christopher Reeve because yesterday was the anniversary of his death, and I just want to read out something he said many, many years ago because I found it so brilliant. I shall leave you in peace in a minute, but I need to read this out to you because this is brilliant. Now let me see if I can just do a little close-up on it. Right. It is very hard for me to be silly about Superman because I've seen firsthand how actually he transforms transforms people's lives. I have seen children dying of brain tumours who wanted as their last request to talk to me and have gone to their graves with a peace brought by knowing that their belief in this kind of character really matters. It is not Superman, the tongue-in-cheek cartoon character, connecting with who they're connecting with. They're connecting with something very basic. The ability to overcome obstacles, the ability to preserve, ability to understand difficulty and to turn your back on it. Christopher Reeve, Time Magazine, 1988. Wow, that, to me, right, I didn't even know that Chris had died. I didn't even know it was the anniversary of Chris's death. And I was trying to read that out, and I was trying to do a close-up because the writing's really small. But the guy said some amazing things. I mean, he actually sat down. Marlon Brando was talking about him in an interview show, saying he wasted his whole career. So Chris had a lot of opinions on a lot of things. But unlike most actors playing superheroes today, he took it seriously. Not just for the art. Not only did he play Superman, even in Superman 3 and 4, which are films a lot of people don't particularly care for, even if the people making the films didn't take it seriously, he did. He knew how important it was. It was so important to him to keep pure, to keep his pure reputation. He was the first Superman I ever saw, and without him, I would never have become a fan. I would never be doing this video. Anyway, please follow me on Twitter @MoviesTVMad. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you lot didn't get bored and turn off the video. But you probably did. See you tomorrow.